everybody. Hello, Facebook. Hello, Instagram. Let's see. We have about 1 minute. I'm Schellie Fan, and you're tuning into an Ask Schellie segment. So I'm super excited. I'm not in the office today, so I feel a little out of place. Hello, cousin. How are you? Okay. Hi, precious. Hello. Welcome to the Ask Schellie segment. I'm live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook. Thank you so much for joining. Hello. Welcome. Hi, Candace. Oh, let's see here. I just want to again just welcome you guys to this Tuesday's Ask Schellie segment. It's 12 o'clock. We're going to get started. So, hello, Facebook. Hello, Instagram. My name is Schellie Fan, and I am your emotional intelligence expert, your emotional intelligence consultant, and I am the owner of Ask Schellie Consulting. And I absolutely love what I do. So basically, I consult with all things dealing with human behavior, human mind, thoughts. I'm a corporate trainer, performance coach. I am an individual and group psychotherapist. I also own a great community mental health agency with my business partner, Robin Williams, Harmony Mental Health and Behavioral Services, where we serve the ages of 2 to 99. I love working with people. So Ask Schellie Consulting, we do corporate training. It's a group of consultants, a group of emotional intelligence consultants that goes out and we perform corporate training. We help businesses just take their legacy, their brand to another level. So we do training, leadership development, staff retention, and staff recruitment. We're very big on the development of policy and procedure for your business. And we also go in and help with conflict mediation and personality management and teaching people how to seal the deal, how to connect with their clients, how to connect with their consumers. And then on an individual level, I do individual psychotherapy, and I do it with my expertise is self-esteem and motivation in women and problem behavior management through the provision of skilled parenting. So I do all of the above as an emotional intelligent consultant. Anything that has to do with working with people and connecting with people, connecting with children, your children, other children, how to manage your classroom, anything emotional intelligence is what I specialize in, and I absolutely love what I do. And so Ask Schellie Consulting launched just a few weeks ago. We are 3 contracts deep since that launch, and so I'm super excited about what God is doing. And so what I do on Tuesdays, so as a licensed psychotherapist, and I say this all the time, people always have questions. I mean, they could be dead quiet and dead silent, but as soon as they find out that I'm a psychotherapist, there's a lot of questions that are asked. And I get lots of emails from people all the time with questions. And so one of the things that I said is when I start Ask Schellie Consulting, I'm going to make it a point to address these questions publicly so that it would be an educational tool for you all. Now, it may not apply to you. Understand that these responses are very individualized. It may not apply to even the person asking the question. They're asking me a simple question. I don't know the history behind it most of the time. I don't know the person. I don't know the issues that they're dealing with. And so understand that it may not necessarily apply to you at 100%, but my prayer is that it is an educational tool, something that you can grow from, something that you could grow in, something that you may spark your interest in wanting to find out more. And that's what Ask Schellie Consulting is all about. You can find me at www.askschellie.com. You can ask your questions there, and I will feature your questions on a weekly live. And that's every Tuesday at 12 o'clock. And so today I am featuring 2 questions. Usually I only feature 1, but there was a question last week that I wanted to get to this week. And so I'll be doing that at the end of this segment, but I'm going to just jump into our first question for today. So let me just say that this is a mature question. It is sexual in nature. This is a woman who is married, who is asking a question about her sexual relations with her husband. And so this is going to require a mature audience. I understand that with social media, these videos don't always land in front of the eyes of a mature person. And so I'm going to try to be very mindful of that. But I do encourage you to email me to send your questions to, again, go to www.askschellie.com. You can send your questions there and say, I need a more raw answer. So if you can tell that I'm kind of beating around the bush and trying to be politically correct, feel free to email me. Send me a message. Go to www.askschellie.com. You are able to ask your questions there, and I will respond within 24 hours. And so here we go. This is our first question. It says, Dear Ask Schellie, and when I look away, I'm looking at my laptop. I hate to not have eye contact with you guys. I'm recording here, but I just want to make sure that I'm reading the question verbatim. So it says, Dear Ask Schellie, I have been married for almost 20 years now to a man I regard as amazing. And that's pretty amazing when you've been married for 20 years and you still regard your spouse as amazing. Am I right? Am I right, Facebook? That's pretty good. While we have our ups and downs, I recognize that I am truly lucky to have him, especially when I listen to the horrible things my friends and families go through in their marriages and relationships. I have seen your lives and respect how you maintain the confidentiality of your followers, so I am taking this huge risk. I have never experienced heightened sexual pleasure with my husband. During times spent with my girlfriends, I hear them talking about orgasms, being turned out, and the next word rhymes with flirting. The next word rhymes with flirting. Okay, so let me repeat. During time spent with my girlfriends, I hear them talking about orgasms, being turned out, and another word that rhymes with flirting, and all types of stuff that I have never experienced sexually. As a matter of fact, it's more of a chore for me. It is not that I don't enjoy it. I think I like the attention and being desired far more than I like the experience itself. I am not more or less satisfied after having sexual relations with my husband. He seems to love and enjoy it, and I think it makes him feel more like a man because I have mastered the art of faking my pleasure and making it seem he is Superman. But it is all a lie. How can I stop this? How can I stop this? Can I have some comments, please? I need Facebook to help me because these questions are difficult at times. So I'm going to try my best. I see I have my therapist friend Carla on here. So please, please, please. Yes, Alana, rhymes with flirting. I want to be very careful. But again, if you want the raw version, send me a message, www.askschellie.com. Okay, so here we have this woman, guys. She's been married for 20 years. She's been faking pleasure the entire time, and she wants it to stop. Her last question is, how can I stop this? This suggests that it's more of a singular problem, and it is a multifaceted issue, right? And so when she says, how can I stop this? And I'm going to call you Love. So, Madam Love, I don't know what you mean by how can I stop this, because I see a lot of issues here. Number one, I'm recognizing the lie as an issue. So how can I stop this, meaning how can I stop this lie? But there's also another issue. And that issue is the fact that you have to fake pleasure, that you have not experienced heightened pleasure with your husband, which means that there's a whole different dimension in your marriage, a potential dimension that you haven't even tapped into because you have not experienced sexual pleasure with your husband. So when you say, how can I stop this? There's many different things. There's many different issues in this question, but I want to focus on the lie and I want to focus on the reason why she's lying, which is I don't find sexual pleasure with my husband. Okay. So I'm going to break this down in 3 different areas. So if this woman came into my office, I would break this down in like 3 different areas, 3 different phases. Alana says that there sounds like there needs to be an honest heart-to-heart. You are already reading my mind. It says, has she ever had an orgasm in her life? That's a very good question, Keegan 1924. It's hard to tell because, again, I'm only going by this little information that was sent to me. And so those are very good questions. These are things that we would want to know when she comes into the office. Precious is saying it's not going to be easy, but she will have to have that hard conversation and or possibly see a sex therapist. So here, I'm going to break it down into 3 phases. And the first one is the healing phase. And the reason why I say that is because because there has to be an exposure of the lie, right? And lying, it causes emotional injury. It's betrayal. Every time that you are manifesting behaviors that are leading other people to think one thing when it really isn't, that's deceptive and that is a lie. And so now she's going to have to look at her husband in his eyes and let him know that she has lied for 20 years. That's going to require some healing. And so before we can even get to the sex part and to get to why she's not experiencing heightened pleasure, we're going to have to help this couple work through the healing process. And that requires being very clear about expectations, making sure that couples are committing to meeting the expectations of the other, holding each other accountable to those expectations that you committed to meet. But most importantly, it's going to require change. Change is defined as maladaptive behaviors and thoughts and thinking processes stopping simultaneously where very healthy behaviors and healthy thoughts and adaptive responses replace what we're stopping. And so I need to say this again. Change is that place where things are stopping while simultaneously healthy things are starting. The reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of the times people will come to you and declare that they have changed, whether it's an ex-girlfriend, whether it's an ex-boyfriend, whether it's an ex-employee. I hear it all the time, even in therapy. You know what? Therapy has been great. I'm doing so much better. I'm feeling better. Or in marriage counseling, we're doing better. We are on a different level. Things are going great. And then I ask the question, I'm so happy that things are better. Tell me what has stopped and tell me what has started. When someone can come to you and tell you that they've changed and they are able to delineate specifically the things that have stopped and specifically the things that have started, it's at that place where you can actually believe that they have changed. But if you cannot tell me what you have intentionally stopped and what you have intentionally started, that change has not happened. And so a lot of the times people go on an emotional high. They've had a couple of counseling sessions. They've had a couple of heart-to-heart. They're communicating better and they think that everything is wonderful. But nothing has changed. Why? How do we define change? It's that place. It's that place where things have maladaptive, the junky thinking and the stinking thinking, and those things have stopped, and you have learned how to intentionally replace it with healthy behaviors, healthy responses, healthy reactions. So it's that place where things stop where simultaneously things start. That is the definition of change. And we're going to need to commit to a lot of different changes throughout this healing process. So we said the first thing that we're going to have to help this couple do is heal. There's been some deception. There has been lies. And also, she says that this helps her husband to feel very manly and macho. And so now we're going to have to heal him. We don't want this to demasculate him either. So there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. And I am not in the business of just going to the end result, because a lot of the times what we're perceiving as the end result are just branches. They're leaves. They're not really the root of the issue. And so we got to get to the heart of things. We have to make sure that we are addressing emotional injury, that we are rebuilding trust again, that we are communicating with one another, that we're making sure that there's no demasculation that has happened. We're being open. We're being honest. So healing has to happen. I want to make sure that I stress that before I get to all the sex talk, okay? So after we have successfully navigated through the healing phase, it's going to be important to assess the intimacy between these two. A lot of the times when people say that they want better sex, what they're wanting is increased and heightened intimacy. Because when you maximize intimacy between a husband and his wife, then it promotes limitless sexual experiences. Limitless sexual experiences when you are able to increase the intimacy between a husband and a wife. So again, when people say that they want better sex, what they're wanting is increased intimacy, or what they're needing is increased intimacy. So let's explore this a little bit more. So sex happens in 3 different zones. Oh gosh, I'm trying to do this in like a few minutes. This is so hard. Okay, I probably need to do like a raw, unedited version of this so I could really make sure that you guys are getting this, especially you married folks or those who are intending to be married. Let's see. Dancing Machine herself, you were my coach 26 years ago. Who knew you could be my coach 26 years later? Okay. Hi, Heather. I think it was Heather Cook before, right? Okay, so going back to sex. So sex happens in 3 different zones. So we've already talked about it, right? We went through the healing process and now we're getting to the intimacy of things. It happens in the cold zone. Sex happens in the warm zone and hot zone. Cold, warm, and hot. A lot of times when people are coming in for intimacy coaching or sex coaching, they want to go straight to hot zone. But you have to start in building and maximizing and promoting health in cold, warm, and hot. The foundation for the success of what happens in hot zone, it's the foundation of that is cold zone. Okay, so hot zone is that ultimate place, right? That ultimate experience happens in hot zone. The foundation of hot zone is cold zone. So we're going to have to assess cold, warm, and hot and help this couple heal and learn and develop in each one. So for the purpose of time, I'm going to give you the really, really quick version. So in cold zone, this is where your schedules reflect, this is where we are assessing how healthy the day-to-day schedule is for this husband and wife, right? You know, how effective is your communication with one another? How submitted are you to God, and how submitted you are to one another? How much you're honoring your children, how much you're honoring, again, open communication, how aligned are you guys with spending, how aligned are you guys spiritually, what are those family trends and rituals that would evidence that you're prioritizing the family. So these are the things that happen in cold zone: rituals, schedules, how you're communicating with one another, how you're honoring one another, how you guys are really flowing as one unit, for real, one unit. How you're parenting, how we're limiting conflict, how we're being intentional about creating a healthy unit between the two of you. Those are things that happen in cold zone. And there's so much more, but I'm just trying to give you an overview. In warm zone, we are assessing what happens when the distractions are not there. So in cold zone, we're taking a look at, the children and how you guys are flowing and how much leisure and recreation you allow yourself to have and how connected you are with positive influences for your marriage and things like that. In warm zone, now we are taking all of that out and we're only focusing on husband and wife. And so in warm zone, we're looking at how you guys flirt with one another. How well do you know what your person likes or doesn't like, and how you guys are connecting and really enhancing quality time. And I define quality time as the degree to which you are engaging in skin-to-skin contact, while simultaneously engaging in eye contact, while simultaneously engaging in verbal contact. So quality time is 3 types of contact happening at once. That is verbal, skin to skin, and eye. Does it mean that you cannot have valuable time without that? Well, no. Dr. Quebec Logan, we did a live together. And one of the things that he said was, I kind of disagree with you, Miss Schellie, because, you can go out on a beach and sit with someone, hold their hands, and have no conversation, and it'd be very romantic. And that's very well and true. But I'm not necessarily talking about romance here. I'm talking about quality time, something that's happening on a consistent basis that stimulates attachment between 2 people. Attachment, unity, connection. And that is when those 3 types of contacts are happening simultaneously. It's happening intentionally. It's happening consistently. So what's quality time? It's 3 types of contacts happening at one time. What are those 3 contacts, Facebook? I just said it. 3 types of contact happening at one time. Eye, verbal, and oh my, skin to skin. And this applies to quality time with your children as well. Okay? All right. And so we're looking at To what degree do you have a warm zone? Warm zone doesn't necessarily mean that you're always ending up in hot zone. You may not. You may have that skin to skin. You may kiss. You may pet flirt. You may watch a movie, massage one another, and it may not end up in hot zone. You may end up going to sleep and waking up and having a great romantic night. But looking at the ways that we are really enhancing and maximizing connection in warm zone is very important. And then we get to hot zone. So we are open with one another. We have very healthy family systems. We are connected. We have open communication. We have conversations of care, which is very important. That can happen in cold or warm zone. Conversations of care is when we're not talking about bills. We're not talking about cheerleading. We're not talking about football. We're talking about each other. How's your heart? How's your soul? How are you feeling? How are you thinking? What are those thoughts that you're embarrassed to talk about? Or this is conversations of care, right? So we have all those down pat, and so now we are ready to transition into hot zone. So in hot zone, some of the things that we teach is really understanding what it is you desire from us, because we're sensory people, right? We're sensory. So making sure that people are really clear about what it is that stimulates all 5 of their senses, because a sexual experience has to you have to maximize and really trigger or ignite or stimulate those senses. And when all those senses are stimulated all at one time, my God, so many things can happen. And so let's break down those 5 senses. I know it sounds really crazy, like the 5 senses. What does that have to do with anything? But when I start to, provide intimacy coaching, then couples are like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. So think about your 5 senses. The sense of sight. What stimulates you visually, right? So the bonnet that you're wearing to bed may not be stimulating to the person that you're with. Right? And so we have to really be conscious of what is visually stimulating. What's visually stimulating for you? What's visually stimulating for you? And so we don't break it down like that. So what does your partner want to see? What's visually stimulating to you? What stimulates your nose? Right? I had a couple, the woman was so into all types of candles and Victoria's Secret, and I love Victoria's Secret. I love you, Victoria's Secret. I love all the lotions, but you know what? Her husband was like, I don't want to smell all that. I don't need all that sweet and roses or whatever. I just want to smell you. I want to smell the funk in the room, the sweaty room. And I hate to be, raw like this, but this is what he wanted. And so how do we compromise, right? How do we compromise and really take a look at how we can both be cognizant, respectful of what the other person desires, right? And so Alana says no bonnets, right? No mumu to bed. No mumu. No pavle we mumu. Take the mumu off, right? And so we're looking at what stimulates you visually, what stimulates your nose, even ears, what you want to hear. I know you may be thinking like, has she lost her mind? That's huge. So when you have someone that wants to listen to music, well then what kind of music do you want to listen to? Right? Because what may be stimulating to you that might really help you heighten those experiences may not be stimulating to that person. And so what is it that's sexy to you that you want to hear? Again, the same couple, she loved music. She loved romantic music, right? But he just wanted to hear her pleasure. He didn't want to hear anything. I want to hear you, and I want to hear me, and I want to hear our stomach smacking, that's what I want to hear, right? And so we have to be able to assess those things. What do you want to feel? A lot of us think that, you call your genital parts your erogenous zones. No, there are other erogenous zones outside of your genital parts. So really taking the time to explore that. Let's get some feathers and let's play around and try to locate and explore those together. It's fun. Those areas behind your knees or behind your elbows or whatever that is. But again, being very careful, being very cognizant of all those things that we tend to sometimes forget and just jump into bed and you're great. And that was an amazing, powerful 5-minute experience that could have been 50 minutes or even more if we just took time and now I understand. And not all the time are you going to get that deep, right? Not all the time are you going to want to engage in all of these different things. And so that is where we talk about quickies, and those could be healthy too. But again, we're talking about heightened maximum experience, okay? And so we talked about eyes. What do you want to see? What do you want to smell? What do you want to hear? What do you want to taste? All those little fruity oils that you bought, he may not want that. He just may want to taste your bodily fluid. So really being, clear about all of these things that stimulate your partner. And this is something that I would work with them with, helping to be cognizant of that, exploring erogenous zone, exploring G zones, and making sure that, husband is taking time to really find that zone for his wife and learning ways and positions to access that. And so this is what we're doing when we're assessing intimacy. So we talked about walking through the healing process. We talked about assessing intimacy, then different levels of intimacy, really taking a look at what happens in cold zone and warm zone and hot zone. And then the third part is making sure that people hold themselves accountable. Hold themselves accountable to meeting the needs of the other person, holding each other accountable of being honest and open, and holding each other accountable to not feel bad when things don't necessarily happen. But, so those are the different things. And so again, we talked about healing. We talked about understanding cold zone, warm zone, hot zone, and making sure that we are open to education. Also, there's a difference between orgasm and climax, and there are ways to really lengthen orgasm, and you can lengthen that for a very, very long time. I mean, there are things that people really don't know, and so you cannot grow without new information. The brain doesn't shift without new information. We need new information. We need to apply new information. And so for Mrs. Love, that sent me that question, I would love to work with you and your husband, and it doesn't have to be me. There are great intimacy coaches out there, sex therapists and family therapists that could really work in kind of healing your marriage and making sure that you and your husband get to a place where you guys are experiencing fulfillment in all different areas, right? So this process is not about breaking, it's about erecting. It's not about breaking, it's about erecting a new connection between you and your husband that is going to be sustained till death do you guys part. So I really, really hope that was helpful. That was the question about faking orgasms for 20 years. Oh my gosh, no one has to do that. Stop faking. Nothing changes when you fake. Someone did write me. I want to acknowledge that someone wrote me on Instagram and said, this is not fair because men fake too. I just want to remind you guys that I'm just I'm answering and providing responses to questions that were asked of me. And so this happened to be a question from a woman who has been lying to her husband for 20 years about her sexual experience. And so, if you have something that you want to say, if you have a question and you are a man that fakes, or you want me to acknowledge that on an Ask Schellie segment, visit me at www.askschellie.com and submit your question there. All right? And so we are almost out of time. I'm going to quickly address the second question. It's more on a corporate level, and we will be done. And so this is from a business owner. He says, or she says, why do I think it's a he? I put he here. Maybe he acknowledged his sex in his question, in his name. Oh yeah, it's a he. Dear Ask Schellie, I run a business here in Orlando and often feel that I'm running the business all by myself. I have a team that I pay that often falls short of what I expect of them. I feel like I do a great job valuing them by being flexible with rules. Don't do that. Don't do that. I feel like I do a great job valuing them by being flexible with rules, hosting great holiday parties, paying them competitively, but I still feel like I am on an island all by myself when it comes to productivity. What should I do? I often feel like firing my entire team. It is as if I do it all myself anyways. So, to this business owner, I'm going to give you a quick and dirty response. It doesn't sound like you need to fire your entire team. It sounds like you need to fire your leadership style. And so I know it's, a little hard here because I only have just a few minutes. And so I'm going to share what I have found in consulting with businesses to be a very common mistake that many businesses and leaders and business owners make. So I have this little checkoff list that I use when I'm doing my initial consultation with business owners who need help, who need an emotional intelligence expert. Ask Schellie to come in and assist. And so the first thing is assessing the leadership. So these are common errors that are often made in businesses. So poor leadership. So doing it all yourself is not good leadership. It's not. How are you inspiring your employees to rise to the occasion if you're doing it all yourself? And while you make it seem like it's so difficult, it is much easier to do it all yourself than to teach, to train, to build, to empower, to inspire. It may be a little cheaper too, because when you're building a culture of excellence, that means that you got to put out some money. You got to hire people like me to come in and train your staff. You got to get people from the outside to come in and train your staff. And so we have to assess leadership. It starts from the top. This is something that a lot of leaders and business owners do not want to hear, but it starts from the top. So we have to assess leadership. Another major area that's very common in businesses who are feeling like their employees are not producing is poor communication. How are you expressing your expectations to your employees? That's very, very important. How are you doing that? How often are you doing that? So it's important. And a lot of times I go into firms and different businesses and ask them, what are the expectations of your bosses? What are the expectations of your supervisors? They write a whole list, and the supervisor writes a list, and the supervisor's list and the employee's list are two different lists. How's that happening? How's that happening? That's a big sign of poor communication. How are you being very clear about what you are expecting from your team? You're not communicating expectations if you're doing it all yourself and they're still employed for you and you take them out to all these lavish holiday outings and parties. And so again, poor communication. Another common issue, poor training. It's very important to invest in training your team. You got to train your team where you want them to go. And so making sure that you have a line item for that in your budget so that you're assuring that you're training your team where you want them to go. So again, some common observations with individuals who are frustrated with their team: poor leadership, poor communication, poor training, and a culture that does not support where you want your team to go. You have to create a culture that surrounds your vision. You have to create a culture that surrounds your vision. And so if you want a place of excellence, but you also want it to be fun, you want people to be connected, you want to give that maximized consumer experience. So what is the culture that's promoting fun and laughter, promoting excellence? And so some of the things that I assess when I want to take a look at what's that culture that supports your vision as a business owner. What does that look like? Some examples of what I assess going in, I'm on my initial consultation training list. So you want a team that is operating in excellence. So I need to see your training curriculum, Madam Business Owner or Mr. Business Owner that wants to fire your whole team. What is your training curriculum? What are you making sure that you are training your staff on once every month? Something you're training your staff on once every quarter. Something you're training your staff on once every year. A monthly training curriculum, a quarterly training curriculum, an annual training curriculum. Constantly train. I don't care how excellent your staff is. I don't care how credentialed they are. Every business owner needs a training curriculum to assure that your staff are operating in excellence and they are continuously growing. Because there's only one thing that you can do. You can grow or decline. You can grow or decline. Which way do you want your team members to go? Okay? And so I assess the training curriculum. I assess incentives for your team. How are you recognizing your staff? Do you have an employee of the month curriculum? And what does that look like? How often are you using the names of your employees when you interact with them? People want to hear their names. Do you know that everybody's favorite word is their name, right? Everybody's favorite word is their name. And so really taking a look at those incentives, those staff recognition policies and procedures, that's often things that, I'm not yelling, Stefan. But that's often things that leaders fail to recognize. And so we talked about training curriculum, incentives for your team. What is your staff retention policy? How are we keeping great people who are doing well and really promoting, where you want your business to go? So what are your staff retention policies? Half the time, business owners don't even have a policy and procedure manual. So what's your roadmap? What is your roadmap? And so again, we need to know what the incentives for your team is. What is your staff retention policy? What is your skill building policy? What specific skills does your team need to be the bomb.com? If you own a salon, Christina Clayton, what specific skills does everybody connected to your salon have to assure that you are crushing competition? I have business owners that can't even tell me what that is. Is it engagement, client engagement, great follow-up, amazing social skills, amazing sales skills, to be assertive? What are the specific skills that you need to assure that you are crushing competition? And how do we assure that the people that we are recruiting meet those needs or have those skills, right? So that's where personality assessment and testing need to come in your recruiting process to assure that you're bringing on team members that are going to produce what it is you need. Yes? All right. So, Mr. Burnt Out Leader, you don't need to fire your entire team. You may. Because when we change your leadership style, when we get you maximizing and flowing in your leadership skills and you're doing great and we got a policy procedure manual in place and you're evaluating your staff, by the way, that's very important that you are evaluating your staff. It could be quarterly, it could be annual, right? Not everyone needs quarterly, but if you have someone that keeps messing up, you may need a quarterly evaluation schedule, right? And so once we have those things in place and your team are not rising to the occasion, guess what? Let's turn to page 54 and let's read our separation policy. That's when we say thank you, goodbye, and good night. And there can't be any emotions attached to it, right? Because being a leader is a lot of it has to be unemotional. So, Mr. Burnt Out Leader, you can reach me at www.askschellie.com so I can assist you in building an amazing set of procedures for your business that will get your team ignited and on fire and ready to operate in their A game. I am all done Instagram and Facebook. This is Schellie Fan. Visit me at www.askschellie.com. Submit your questions. I'll be back at you next Tuesday at 12 o'clock to feature another question. I hope you found this to be helpful. Share, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.